The darkened room, hummed with the quiet purr of the ship's engines, a small reminder of the vastness of space surrounding them. Seated around the table were 5 humans, their faces illuminated by the dim light of holographic readouts and tactical maps. They were not a team, th elite, human operatives sent on the most dangerous missions by the B team, the one caught in when things went sideways. "All right, people," Captain Adrienne Eddie Carter said, her voice steady but sharp as a blade. "We're on approach to RE121, and it's exactly what we feared, a full-scale war zone. Command needs boots on the ground, fast, but we're walking into a meat grinder." The room fell silent. Everyone knew about RE121, a world categorized as a death world, a place where the environment was so hostile that even the strongest and most adaptable species struggled to survive. It had taken years of exploration to confirm what was whispered about in every briefing room. This planet was bad news. Worse, it was in the crosshairs of a hostile alien empire, the Arcanax. They weren't just interested in colonization, they wanted to eradicate anything that stood in their way. Sergeant Marcus Brick Davis, the team's demolitions expert, leaned back in his chair, a grim smirk playing across his lips. "So, we're just supposed to waltz into a war between the Arcanax and the local Deathworlders. Ah, sounds like a blast." "You could say that," Carter replied, giving him a pointed look. "Intel says the Arcanax are using bioweapons, chemical agents, anything to make sure the locals don't stand a chance. We're here to stop them, neutralize the threat, and secure an extraction point for the civilians." "Easy, right?" "Right," muttered Lieutenant Anna Fox Hart, the sniper and recon specialist, "except they forgot to mention the part where we don't come back." "Don't be so negative, Fox," said Dr. Javier Doc Alvarez, their field medic. "The B team always survives, usually in a dramatic explosion at the end. Might be good for morale." The sarcastic exchange did little to ease the tension in the room. They knew the odds. The A team had been the one assigned to RE121 initially, and contact had been lost weeks ago. If the top-tier soldiers couldn't handle this, what chance did the B team have? "Look," Carter said, her voice softening, "I know we're walking into hell, but there are people down. They're humans, Deathworlders, and otherwise will need our help. If we don't go, they die. I don't care if we're second strand. We do the job because no one else can." Hours later, the shuttle cut through the atmosphere of RE121 like a blade, dodging flak and anti-air fire from both sides. The terrain below was a war-torn landscape, a blend of charred forests, jagged mountains, and molten rivers. The local Deathworlders, an 8-foot-tall reptilian species with leathery skin and brute strength, were fighting a losing battle against the Arcanax forces. The B team hit the ground running, moving through the chaos with the efficiency of seasoned veterans. They knew their roles, knew each other's strengths and weaknesses. "Brick, get that bunker down," Carter barked over the comms, pointing to a heavily fortified Arcanax position ahead. "On it, Cap," Brick replied, saying his charges with swift precision. Moments later, the ground shook with the force of the explosion, sending debris and alien bodies flying. "Fox, eyes on the ridge. Keep the snipers off us," Carter ordered next. "Already on it," Fox's calm voice replied, her sniper rifle taking out key targets with lethal accuracy. She'd always had a knack for making impossible shots look easy, but even she struggled with the hostile conditions of the Deathworld. The wind howled, and the toxic atmosphere made every breath feel like fire. The fighting was brutal, but the B team pushed forward. They weren't just fighting to win, they were fighting to survive. As they neared their objective, the data station became even more apparent. Civilians, human colonists, and Deathworld natives were huddled in makeshift shelters, their faces a mix of fear and desperation. The Arcanax forces were closing in, their monstrous soldiers armed with grotesque biological weapons. "Doc, get to those civilians," Carter shouted. "Fox, cover him. Britt, take the left flank with me. We need to buy them time." The next minutes were a blur of violence and adrenaline. Brick's heavy weaponry tore through the Arcanax ranks, while Carter engaged in close quarters combat with an alien lieutenant, her blade flashing as she danced through the chaos. Doc moved through the civilians, administering aid as best he could, though the planet's hostile environment made every medical procedure more difficult. Just when it seemed like they were making headway, a new threat emerged. A massive Arcanax war beast, bristling with armor and weaponry, thundered into view, its four eyes glowing with malice. It roared, the sound shaking the very ground beneath them. "Chit," Fox swore from her sniper's perch, "we don't have anything that can't take that down." Carter's mind raced. They were out of time, and the beast was heading straight for the civilians. "Brick," she called, "you got any more of those charges?" "Last one," Brick replied grimly. "Good, we're going to need it." Minutes later, the war beast charged, its massive limbs crushing everything in its path, but the B team was ready. With a well-coordinated attack, they lured the beast into a trap, Brick planting his last explosive at the creature's feet. "Now," Carter shouted, and the charge detonated, engulfing the war beast in a fiery explosion. When the dust settled, the creature was gone, reduced to smoldering ruin. The civilians were safe, for now. Carter looked at her team, bloodied but alive, and gave a small nod. "Good work, B-team. Let's get these people out of here." They weren't the A-team, they never would be, but they were enough. And sometimes, enough was all you needed. The relief of the moment was fleeting, as the smoke from the warbeast's remains dissipated into the toxic air. Captain Atrian Carter kept her eyes on the horizon. They had secured a small victory, but in this hostile environment, the next threat was always looming. The locals, both human colonists and Deathworld natives, were still huddled together, unsure if their nightmare was truly over. The massive creature's corpse smoldered nearby, casting long shadows in the eerie twilight of RE121's atmosphere. The air tasted of ash and burnt metal. Sergeant Marcus Brake Davis gave a low whistle as he surveyed the destruction. "That was close. I'm out of heavy ordnance. I hope you've got a plan B, Captain." Atrienne glanced at him, wiping sweat and soot from her face. "We'll figure it out. We always do." Her tone was firm, but she couldn't shake the growing weight of what lay ahead. Lieutenant Emma Fox Hart was perched on a high ridge, surveying the landscape through her scope. "No movement for now," she reported, "but that won't last long. I give it an hour tops before the Arcanax regroup." Atrienne nodded. "We don't have an hour." "Doc, how are the civilians holding up?" she asked as she made her way over to where Javier Doc Alvarez was tending to the wounded. Doc wiped his brow, his medical kit scattered around him. "Not good. Most of them are malnourished. Some have severe radiation burns from the bioweapons, and the atmosphere here is doing them no favors. A few more hours, and some of them won't make it." Atrienne cursed under her breath. The situation was worse than she had anticipated. The Arcanax had ravaged this world with everything they had: bioweapons, radiation, and the brutal might of their war machines. The civilians weren't just casualties of war. They were pawns in a much larger game. "We're sitting ducks here, Captain," Doc added. "If we don't get them off this planet soon, we'll have more than just the Arcanax to worry about." Atrienne knew he was right. They had bought time, but that was it. They needed to get to the extraction point, and fast. The problem was, it was several clicks away through Arcanax territory, and with limited supplies and no heavy explosives left, their chances weren't looking great. "We'll move out in 10, she said. "We stick together, stay low, and keep an eye on the skies." "Cap," Fox chimed in, her voice low over the comms. "We've got a bigger problem. I've spotted movement about 5 kilometers out, headed right for us. It's not the Arcanax this time." Atrienne felt her pulse quicken. "Deathworders." "Looks like it," Fox confirmed. "About 20 of them, heavily armed. These ones don't look like civilians." Atrienne had expected this. The Deathworders weren't a unified front. Some of them had allied with the Arcanax for survival or profit. It was a gamble on their part, trading their planet's future for temporary power. But desperation made people do dangerous things. "Great," Brick muttered, cracking his knuckles. "Now we've got two armies to deal with." "Not if we can't help it," Atrienne replied. "Fox, keep eyes on them. If they engage, we'll deal with it. But we might be able to talk our way out of this one." The plan was simple. Move the civilians through a ravine that led toward the extraction point, keeping them hidden from both the Arcanex and the approaching Deathworlders. If they were lucky, they might slip past unnoticed. If they weren't, well, they'd improvise. They always did. The march was grueling. The air on RE121 was thick with pollutants, each breath feeling like inhaling shards of glass. The ground beneath their feet was treacherous, a mix of cracked earth and jagged rocks. The civilians struggled to keep pace, especially those wounded in the fighting. Adrienne, Brick, Fox, and Doc did their best to help, but time was not on their side. "Captain, we're getting close to that ravine," Fox reported, her sniper's eyes always alert. "But I'm seeing movement up ahead. We've got company." Adrienne stopped, signaling the others to halt. "Come you with them?" Fox's voice was tense. "Deathworlders, looks like a scouting party, no more than 6, but they've got a clear view of the ravine." Brick sighed heavily. "6, that's more manageable. We can't take 'em." Adrienne shook her head. "We don't have the luxury of getting into a firefight. We take them out, and the rest of their group would know we're here. We talk." She motioned for the others to hold their position and approached the scouting party cautiously, hands raised in a non-threatening gesture. The Deathworlders watched her approach, their reptilian faces unreadable. They were massive, their muscular forms dwarfing even the largest humans. One of them, clearly the leader, stepped forward, his yellow eyes narrowing. "You're trespassing on sacred ground. Human," he growled in a deep, guttural voice. "Leave, or be destroyed." Adrienne held her ground, staring him down. "We're not here to fight. We're trying to get civilians to safety. We have wounded both human and your people. The Arcanex would kill us all if we don't work together." The Deathworlder leader seemed unimpressed. "Your kind brought this war to our world. Now you expect us to help you?" Adrienne's eyes hardened. "My team didn't start this war, and neither did your civilians. We're just trying to survive it. The Arcanex don't care if you're human or Deathworlder. They'll wipe us all out if we don't stop them." There was a long silence as the Deathworlder leader considered her words. Behind him, his men shifted uneasily. Finally, he spoke again, his voice filled with grim resolve. "You speak truth, human. The Arcanex are a plague upon this world. But make no mistake, we will not die for you." "I'm not asking you to," Adrienne said quietly, "but maybe we can't live long enough to find a way off this rock." The leader gave a curt nod. "We will let you pass for now. But should we meet again, do not expect mercy." Adrienne exhaled slowly as the Deathworlders moved aside, allowing her and her team to continue through the ravine. It wasn't much of a victory, but it was enough for now. "Let's move," she said, turning to the others. "We've got a long way to go." The B team pressed forward, every step bringing them closer to the extraction point and, hopefully, to salvation. But the dangers of RE121 were far from over. The Arcanex would soon catch up, and the hostile Deathworlders were still lurking in the shadows.